Share your microphone.
Good afternoon. Welcome to a joint hearing of the Community and Economic Development meetings. I put them in that order simply because C comes before E. We'll start with a call of the roll for the Economic Development Committee, since that's how we put it on the agenda.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county YouTube page. Calling the roll for the Economic Development and Planning Committee. Mr. Schron?
Here.
Ms. Baker?
Here.
Mr. Tuma? Mr. Tuma is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon? Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Ms. Stevens?
Present.
We have a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that Ms. Turner is also in attendance. Calling the roll for the Community Development Committee meeting.
So is he.
Oh, you're right, thank you. And Council President Jones is also in attendance. Calling the roll for the Community Development Committee. Ms. Stevens?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Simon? Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Gallagher is absent at the moment. Ms. Baker?
Here.
We have a quorum. Also
Thank
like
you.
the record to reflect that Council members Turner and Schron are in attendance.
Thank you. At this time, if there's any public comment.
Madam Chair, we have two individuals signed in for public comment. The first person is the Honorable Mayor Annette Blackwell.
Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Good things happen in this room, so I'm extremely happy to be here. I'm here today in public support of, looks like it's Resolution 2021-0268, number 3, Jennings Center for Older Adults and Pro Developers, LLC. And I just want to share why I'm here, and this is so important for myself. Also with me today is the city's Economic Development Director, Patrick Grogan Myers, who's here with me. And the reason this is so important to the city of Maple Heights is that this funding is one of the final pieces to help this project go, to see it come to fruition and develop here in Maple Heights and Waterbury, and one of the few undeveloped areas that we still have in the city. It's the first affordable housing project in the city in more than a decade. And it's consistent with this, the revitalization is taking place, really just bringing Maple Heights back to a place that people are proud to call home. It's consistent with our city's master plan that we had just years ago, which this county awarded to the city of Maple Heights, which calls for increased investment in all housing types, so diversifying our housing stock for people of all income levels, an inclusive housing project. It helps residents, which is very important as I am looking to a milestone birthday very soon, age in the community that they have family in or ties to. Stay close to their social network. We have a very successful senior center right on Libby Road across from the famous Verona Bakery and kind of in our midtown part of the city. And it helps to maintain a high quality of life. This is age restricted, and some disabled citizens will be able to live in this facility. The architecture is beautiful. Our city is excited about it, as well as the residents who've had this vacant piece of land vacant for some time. There was a failed development back in 2012, so some trees have been removed, and it sits right behind our business corridor overlay Broadway. So we're super excited today. Again, I am here today along with my Economic Development Director, Patrick Grogan Myers, to just show our full support, and I'm looking forward to the support of this development group today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go Mustangs.
Madam Chair, I'd like the record to reflect that Councilwoman Simon is now in attendance. The last person we have signed in is Ms. Gretchen Bowman.
Hello, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Gretchen Bowman, and I'm here from CHN Housing Partners. And we have 3 items before you today. The first is a request to extend the rental assistance program. The other 2 items relate to affordable housing developments, and I won't speak to the particulars of any of these items here, but I did want to let the committee know that we are very grateful for all of the support that we have received from the county as we seek to help stabilize our community and offer affordable, stable housing to our most vulnerable residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is the last person signed in.
Thank you. We have minutes to approve?
Yes, we have 2 sets of minutes for the Community Development Committee. We have the minutes from the November 15th, 2021 meeting.
Is there anyone?
Move to adopt.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further conversation? Hearing none, can we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
We
The
also-
minutes are approved.
We also have the minutes
Calling
from
minutes
the,
for the October 4th Economic Development Committee meeting. Has everybody a chance to look at the minutes from the October 4th?
Adopt and
Been
approve.
Been moved. The chair will second. Oh, it will be second, sorry. Thank you. Any discussion following? Hearing none. All in favor of the minutes for the October 4th Economic Development Committee meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes carry. Seeing how the next item is the very first item, if you want to just take them in sequence, might as well. All right. If you're going to read into the record for the Economic Development Committee meeting, 0259.
Resolution 2021-0259, allocating capital funds in the total amount of $1 million in support of the Veterans Service Commission of Cuyahoga County's headquarters project, determining the services and programs that shall be provided and funded from the Veterans Services Fund in 2021, authorizing payments to various providers in the total amount of $700,024.35 for said services and programs for the period ending December 31st, 2022.
Seeing how this comes from a council activity and action, is there someone here from the council willing to speak on this issue?
Yes, good afternoon, Councilman Sharon, Trevor McAleer, County Council staff.
Excuse me, Mr. McAleer, can you speak into the microphone?
And my coworker Khalil Seren will be up here in a minute to talk about some of the providers that we will be recommending receive funding from the 2020 leftover dollars from the Veteran Services Commission. So as a quick reminder to the 2 committees, in 2012, County Council passed Ordinance 2012-13, creating this Veteran Services Fund. That fund is fully funded from the leftover dollars from the Veteran Services Commission. So they get a set dollar amount every year that's required by the Ohio Revised Code. Excuse me. And any leftover dollars at the end of each year goes into those funds, into the Veteran Services Fund. And that money can only be used based off the ordinance for veteran services related dollars. Just to give you a quick background of how much money has been left over the course since 2012. In 2013, $758,000 was left over. In 2014, $302,000 was left over. In 2015, it was down to $39,000 that was left over. In 2016, it was $355,000. In 2017, it was $461,000. In 2018, it was $367,000. In 2019, it was $413,000. And you can see by this legislation, it's much greater in 2020, which is $1.7 million. So it's significantly increased mainly because of COVID. And we have the director of the Veteran Services Commission here, John Rice, if you have any specific questions of why it was so high. In 2021, just as an FYI, it's projected to be close to $3 million. But I think the director would tell you that he is seeing an uptick in requests for dollars. So he's hoping in future years it'll go back to kind of normal where we've been in the last 6 or 7 years. So we will get a significant amount left over after this year as well. As you can see from this legislation, it's a little different than years past. We are requesting that the county council actually hold $1 million in the Veteran Services Fund to provide space to the Veteran Services Commission. Their current lease at 18th and Prospect expires September of 2024. Council approved that lease back in 2018, I believe. They can get out of that lease sooner if they give notice by September of 2022. They can get out by September of 2023 if they give enough time. Right now, the Veteran Services Commission is working with our Public Works Department for some potential space a little farther east, but still close to downtown, to purchase a building that has approximately 50 parking spots, and then the county would own that building. But they're currently working with Public Works to inspect and review to see if what needs to be done to that building in order to determine if they're going to come to this body and request that a purchase of that property be approved by county council. So that's what happens in section 1. We're asking you to hold $1 million into that fund. We know at some point they're going to need new space or have to retrofit their existing space if this new property doesn't work for whatever reason. So we know they're going to have to spend some dollars. And by our Ohio Revised Code, we legally have to provide them money to be able to do that. So it would normally come out of our general fund anyway. So that's why we were proposing to use some of these dollars. The Veteran Services Commission has requested that this money be held as well. And we will come to you sometime early next year to request that even more money from the leftover dollars of this calendar year be set aside for the same purpose, because the $1 million will not fulfill the needs to purchase and build out the property.
The purpose of the facility would obviously be providing veteran services to the veterans. So it's not going to bricks and mortar, it's going to extended services, I assume.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. These dollars, the space would be for the Veteran Services Commission staff. That'll be their offices, their administrative headquarters. It would move from 18th and Prospect to the new building.
Okay. Questions about any of this? And did you have, I should have been writing down your numbers. Did you have a total that you went through the individual yearly amounts? Did you actually do a total on that?
I don't have a total written down for you, Mr. Chairman, but quick math,
Sounds
look
like
at about $3 million.
Yeah, it sounds like 3.5.
Yeah.
It was just my back of the envelope. Any comments or questions in regards to the discussion in regards to the building and the set aside?
One, if I may.
Sure.
I know that much of the services and assisting those that are in need of service are done remotely now. Many of the questions, many of giving guidance, where they could get help, what services are available. So does that impact at all the decision of moving, and is this going to be a larger place that they're talking about? How has that remote piece worked into this decision, if it has at all?
Councilwoman, I would probably call upon Public Works or Director Rice from Veteran Services Commission to determine, to answer that question. I believe the building they're looking at is bigger space than they currently have, but it's also my understanding, and I would ask the director to come up, but I think their building is still open for veterans to come in, but I would rely on
You got a
Director Rice
lifeline
to-
coming behind you there on this topic.
Thank you, committee, for having me. So to answer your question, during COVID, we had to make a lot of changes that, as everyone did, to ensure that our veterans could still receive some services. A lot of those decisions will survive COVID. Drop-box solutions so that people don't have to wait in waiting rooms if they are trying to get drops off before lunch or during their lunch periods or time off. Digital submission platforms. Those are there and they're being utilized, but we get a lot of feedback from particularly our older generation, which makes up 60% of our veteran population is over the age of 60 years old. So we know that they still prefer to come down and be in person. And so when it makes sense for them to do so in an environment that is free of health concerns, we know we're going to get volume and numbers back. Whether we're going to still have those numbers in 10, 20 years, we'll have to figure that out, and we'll adjust fire on our programming as those things come down. And we've been pretty good over the last decade of figuring out where the needs in our community are and continuing to evolve. Absent the last 2 years in this surplus, we haven't been able to quite grasp where the need is at this moment. We continue to reach out and talk to our veteran community, but we have a surplus because of the additional funnel of dollars that is going directly to the majority of assistance we provide, that being rent and utilities. So right now, that's where we're getting most of that surplus from. So,
If I may just to follow.
yeah.
Sure.
You know, as with everyone who didn't think that they could adapt by phone and an email and online, even those that were resistant had to do it that way. That's the only way we could provide the services when we were working remotely. Do you think that that 60% could in fact go down considerably because people have learned how to do it without having, especially those that are elderly and maybe not as mobile, have found it easier?
I would hope, I hope so. I know that from dealing with our population, our veteran population tends to be, they're their greatest population, in my opinion, as a biased veteran. But however, I will say that they are also one of our stubborn to their ways population. And you guys know from some of your constituent base that they're not going to move from a position that they have. There's a lot of veterans who will not budge and learn the new technology. And we still fight that to this day with people that are in need. And, we've developed solutions over the last couple of years. A couple of years ago, I think it was 2018, we went and bought a mobile office so we can go to them, provide those solutions to the community. That was just delivered right before COVID, so we weren't able to effectively utilize it at this time. But the hope is, again, we're starting to, every time we say is we're starting to come out of this, we'll get utilization, we come right back into numbers spiking. But eventually, I believe that the increase in space will be more than justified, and we'll find more than enough programming to fulfill its need.
Sadly, we still have a number of veterans who are homeless too, and from
And
that standpoint, they.
and expect it to increase if the numbers from
technology's not
HUD
necessarily
or projections from HUD are accurate.
Yeah,
over the
Ms.
next-
Stevens?
I'd like to follow up on that question. My favorite veteran is 84, and he says that his children are his computers, so he's not going to learn how to use those damn things. And when this virus is over, he will be driving back to the VA and to Veteran Service supportive stuff. So the reality is, Nan, that especially that older cohort of Vietnam vets that are still relatively healthy and active, which is what my father is, he's still driving everywhere he can. And so he'd be happy to get us out of his business when he doesn't have to use the computer to do everything anymore. One of the things that I'm especially concerned about is something that my colleague talked about, is the fact that we have more and more homeless veterans, and we have what looks like some cash flow that's not being used. How do we turn that into bricks and mortar so that more of our veterans have a place to live? Is there a way to partner with our development folks so that you begin to do even smaller groups of housing, maybe 4-suiters and 10-suiters, to get more and more folks off the streets?
I would welcome the opportunity to work with the Development Committee on, permanent supportive housing options, or even temporary housing options for veterans. I will say that the Veteran Service Commission and its operational budget and its purviews for emergency financial relief would preclude us from permanent solutions, but we certainly will advise, bring all the right partners to the table in helping that. But again, the ability to do emergency financial assistance precludes us, because of that word emergency in the ORC, from being able to do longer term options. I'm more than willing to have some discussions about that. I know from a direct homeless services standpoint, we are developing some programming to increase dollars in programming, with the expectation that coming out of COVID, when eventually individuals are going to owe significant resources that they may not be able to catch up on, and that we're going to be able to tackle the potential homeless increase head on. And so we're working on that programming language right now with with my board of commissioners, and once we have it, we'll funnel it to you so you guys can all make sure that any constituents in your communities are aware of what
We
do.
use your funding to do the pre-development costs, like a market study to show what the best locations were, or appraisals for properties that potentially could be financed with other sources of funding.
I think that would take a legal decision. Certainly we could look into that. Again, I don't like any money that's just sitting on the table not to be utilized to support veterans. So I think we can have those conversations, and I'm willing to have a legal opinion. I know from a day-to-day what my board is authorized to authorize from an expenditure standpoint. There may be some limitations, but that doesn't mean that we can't get some sort of opinion that tells us that we're wrong. And if that's the case, then I'm glad to funnel those monies wherever it makes the most sense to support our veterans in our community.
Thank you.
It might be also state legislation that could be a corrective action on that. And
Yeah, because there should be a way to tie these together so that we can begin to do more housing for veterans.
well, we're the unique county. We're the only one in the entire state of Ohio that does what we're doing. This conversation does not take place in any of the other 88 counties.
So from
Good.
the veteran.
Well, it's good that we've been out there since 2012. What's sad is I've raised this with county commissioners and said, why aren't you getting off your certain part of your body and doing the exact same thing? Oh, we're going to get to it, and it just keeps rolling into their general fund, and I just think it's just wrong. Not to toot our own horn, but this is probably the one piece of legislation I'm most proud of all the things we've done, and so it's a positive statement that this, and I know Cleo's going to get to the actual expenditures beyond the housing one. So are there other questions in regards to this, as far as the housing by not housing as you're talking about it, but housing for the offices? Anybody else in regards to that?
Okay.
Yes, Council President?
Just to that point, how many providers, just a rough number of providers we're actually giving dollars to, those direct providers?
Are you talking about for the Veteran Service Fund money right now?
Right, the DTAC.
I think you were listing 8 for this year. In the years past, it's been 10. 10. And I will I'll let your staff member here talk about the specific organizations that are going to be getting that money. So, I was asked. I have a note here to state my name for the record, so I'll do that. John Rice, Director, Cuyahoga County Veteran Service Commission. But yes, so 10, I believe, is the number that.
And the dollar amount roughly?
Council President Trevor McClure, County Council staff again, it's 700,000 approximately for the 10 that Khalil is going to go over each one here briefly once we finish up the discussion about the office space.
Any other questions regarding the office?
Well, I think we have at least
Just
one
one.
more.
Yes, okay.
For John, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just in clarification, because I know I've talked to some of the veterans, and I thought we did an outstanding job in helping those that are in need. But from what I'm hearing, most of the inquiries were by phone, and that the person on the other end was on the computer trying to register them or look for places or get them on. It wasn't really the person who was asking for the services. They were doing it by phone. Is that how that was playing out, or am I just maybe too isolated in understanding the big picture?
We get at this time, we still get the majority of our transactions by phone. Phone or digital submission. That is an outlier from pre-COVID, certainly. And pre-COVID, we would have waiting rooms full with hour-long wait times. And we had 4 locations. And so all of our locations were, people lined up waiting to see service officers in person. Now, while it's coming back up, the wait times are, 10 minutes. We still have people coming into our offices. We're starting to see more and more people come into our offices. But we are still getting a significant amount of phone calls. We process 250 to 300 phone transactions a day for our staff. Anywhere between 5 and 12 digital submissions applications. We get Dropbox applications as well from people who walk in and just drop off and don't wait to see staff. But again, I think once we get out of the fog of COVID, that those numbers are going to probably be more like 2019 than they were by 2020 or 2021, which would mean roughly 150 to 200 bodies a day between our 4 locations.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we go over the 10 items, just 2 comments. I wanted to make sure the council realized there's going to be close to $3 million left over for 2021. We would, if you council approves this $1 million for next year, we would request approximately $2 million be held in the fund for the purchase of property and the retrofit. So just when it comes to you next year, I just wanted to give council a heads up that we would probably request about $2 million, depending on what Public Works comes back with. And then Mike Dever, our Public Works Director, is here today. He can briefly come up if you want an update on where Public Works is at reviewing the potential new space.
Okay, is that the 1 million plus two for a total of 3?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood the math, whether the total was going to be ending up at 2. Sure, as long as we got Mr. Deverell here, we might as well get him giving his thoughts, because I know that Ms. Bakers keeps raising up the issue that she thinks is going to convert all to telephone and computer communications, but having spent 28 years as a veteran, I'd be willing to bet we're going to drift back to physical contacts out there.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. Michael Dever, Director of Public Works of Cuyahoga County. Yeah, just over the last probably month or so, this building did become available. John Rice, along with a real estate consultant, identified it, and John and his board, I think, walked through the space, and they came back and felt like this facility, which is right at the corner of Chester and East 40th Street. It's the Recovery Resources Building. So it was for sale. So they went through it. The asking price for the facility is just over $1.9 million. We are currently doing an assessment of the property to find out what type of, looking at the systems of the building to make sure that we don't have roof issues, heating issues, electrical issues, things of that nature. So we're in the midst of that process right now. John had briefly mentioned also about his program. There was a program developed a few years ago for veteran services. I think they're in the process of tweaking that right now, what they will need for the space in light of COVID also and how the space would be used. So after we do the assessment of the building, I'm anticipating then we're going to look at the program and how the building needs to be retrofitted. So that will come up with what do we need to do in the building. So if the building is purchased for $1.9 million, what is it? Is it $1 million retrofit, or is it up to as high as $5 million? So I'm sure there'll be some value engineering through that process, but we will be coming back to you in the future. And as Trevor has noted, so identifying the dollars for this build out and improvement is yet to come before you.
I think you indicated it had 50 parking spots associated with the building?
That's correct. It butts our Jane Edna Hunter building, which is right behind it. So we think there would be some good synergies between the two buildings also, and there's parking. We do have some lease slots in that area too. And we recently purchased a lot on Chester, close to 40th Street also. So parking has been an issue down there, so this may be able to help all, including Health and Human Services and the back office of Archives and the Board of Elections, which is at the Halley building.
I guess I'd like, as chairman and as a veteran, I would not want to see the loss of those spots if they're allocated for veterans being used, and all of a sudden we find we've eroded what we thought we were providing as veteran spots, only to find out that we've used them as other county spots because there's spillovers and it's more convenient. So I'd love to make sure that if Director Rice is telling us we need X amount because of how many people coming there, that we save those spots, and they are veteran committed spots out there. So I just give that fair warning before, so we're not using it as a dual spot and finding out that our veterans are coming in a wheelchair, can't get into the facility or something like that nature.
Agreed. At the same time, with COVID, what came with COVID is there's a new norm that's developing here. So we're assessing, the board of, or the Health and Human Services facility too, and how they will be working and how much space we actually need for that area. So it's evolving. So we hope to have some clearer answers maybe in the near future.
And I hope the seller understands the purpose for which this building is being considered, and maybe gives us maybe a sharper pencil than 1.9 if he knows that he or she knows that it's going for the benefit of our veterans out there.
Sure. Well, we'll be
And I
continuing
hope
to
the
monitor
media,
that.
I saw that, I know the media's here, so I hope she reports on that request out there. Thank you. Other questions in regards to the facilities?
No, but Mr. Chair, I've got to go, but I had a question for Khalil.
Okay, let's
So
get Khalil up here. Come on.
I have another meeting, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No,
Thanks.
that's okay.
Point of,
We're gonna have a quorum? Yeah, we have a quorum, yep.
I'm down the hall if you need to
That's okay. No,
summon me
we just have-
back.
We have a quorum.
My question, if I may, through the chair to Cleo, Saren, originally when we started this program, I had added my addition, at least at the time, I had some legal aid money that I see is here, but also some housing to the land bank to allow for rehabbed homes, use some money for vets, similar to the Purple Homes program. I don't see that here.
Thank you, Khalil Saren, Policy Advisor, Cuyahoga County Council. You are correct. There was at one point funding for the land bank. Let's see where. Okay.
Yeah, it was about 6 years ago we did, I think.
Yeah. So
In
this
2014, 15. And then I think
Yeah,
about
there was
2018 was the
funding, it
last
looks
time.
like 15,000 in 2018, 50,000 in 2017, but that was a temporary program of the land bank in coordination with Purple Heart Homes, I believe. And as far as I know, they don't have that program ongoing, which is why, but that is something that we could, as a body, that the council could decide to pursue further specific housing initiatives with these funds, or perhaps next year with the funds that are returned, if there are funds that are unspent next year as well.
Sure. If I may, I would like to see that at least addressed and looked at. If the land bank's not in the loop, I know Purple Heart Homes always needs help, and it's an amazing program.
This is, and there's absolutely room if the either committee or
Okay.
the council wishes to make
Before
amendments to
you
this.
came in, Sonny, I want to have Sarah and her staff talk with the veterans so that we could do maybe a 10-unit building or more than one, so that we could actually see, and they are saying that that programming might be available, but also the first thing was that they didn't know that they could put hard dollars into new construction or acquisition of housing. So we actually need to sit down with development and find a developer besides Purple Hearts, because I don't know that Purple Hearts' capacity.
Well, Purple Heart's been revitalizing homes in neighborhoods.
They've been doing one at a time.
Yeah, but that helps neighborhoods and it helps the veterans, and it's a low impact, but has a great impact.
It's a great program, but I think the money was there going to the individual to help do the rehab as opposed to buying what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a different
It's a different
thing.
approach, yes.
So I hope we can look at that to maybe use some dollars I'll get with Purple Heart Homes and come back.
Yeah, and one of my favorite programs is This Old House, and they just did a house where they had converted an old school. If you just watch it, I think it was on last 2 weeks ago, where they
Okay.
converted an old school for veterans.
If you need me for quorum, I'm down the hall.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Councilwoman Simon, if I may, real quick, we're late this year bringing this recommendation to you, mainly because we wanted to work with Veteran Services Commission to figure out what they need for their space. We plan on bringing forward the 2021 dollars in first quarter, so we will have those discussions with the land bank too.
And there's nothing that says we couldn't do twice, take that money and break it up into two chunks, once in the first half of the year and the second half of the year, in case something comes up that we see has value, because clearly we don't want it going back in the general fund like the other 87 counties.
Chairman, if I could add something?
Yes.
Just to share with you on page 9, one of our items is line item 9. It says Riddle Green Partnership for Urban Agriculture Veterans Programming in the amount of $33,000. This is a new addition to those offerings, and I'm sure you might have prepared to go into it, but I just want to mention that it's in my district. They provide behavioral health, mental health services for veterans. They do fantastic work. The federal government has always been responsible for addressing those who have PTSD. Okay, and one particular area is a innocuous building on Warrensville Center Road in Warrensville Heights, but they actually send their veterans to Riddle because it's a beautiful, spacious, green area. It's an urban farm, so not only are they providing food to the local restaurants in the community, but they're also addressing with their serene environment, offering their services to those that, again, with mental health challenges, and I just wanted to steal a little bit of your thunder there. Because
Well, with that being, touching on one of the 10, could you cover the other 9 for us, Khalil?
Sure. Some of these are relatively rote, but for the members maybe who haven't seen this before, these grants are intended to provide an extension of the services that the Veteran Service Commission either could not provide through the year just based on capacity or the types of services that maybe don't fall within the strict Veteran Service Commission mission. And so there is statutorily a requirement that 20% of the available funds be used for educational purposes. And so to that end, we have historically provided scholarship dollars to Cuyahoga County Community College. And in this event, we're looking at $50,000 in scholarships to Cuyahoga County veterans at Tri-C. Another $50,000 in scholarships to veterans at CSU. And CSU is a re-addition to this set of grants. There was a period of time that we were not providing a grant to CSU. There were some changes in their management at their Veterans Benefits Office, but I've been in contact with Director Coleman, Dr. Coleman, and sort of reestablished that partnership, and so I'm recommending that we provide that $50,000 to veterans who want to attain their bachelor's or master's at CSU. And then in addition to the educational work that we're doing, we also include and have historically included towards employment, career pathway services. This would be in the amount of $50,000 as well for probably in total. I think historically the career pathways for veterans have been around $4,500 to $5,000 per veteran. So this would serve in total about 10 veterans, but usually it's added to other funding. So it's in addition to their other funding for veteran services through towards employment. And then historically, we've also provided funding to Office of Homeless Services to give the move-in kits for veterans in permanent supportive housing and those other services that the county provides, sort of augmenting and supplementing their funding. And then also supplementing the funding of the Veterans Treatment Docket, Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas. And as Councilwoman Simon mentioned, the legal aid services. This is an expansion of the historic level of funding that we've provided to legal aid, and I think in part that recommendation is due to the fact that as we are seeing, the COVID pandemic continue and the economic issues continue from that. We wanted to make sure that legal aid was provided with sufficient funding to address things like housing and tenant eviction issues, foreclosure issues that they are providing services to veterans for, to sort of stem any tide of homeless veterans that we could be seeing as this continues. And so we've recommended $150,000 for legal aid services for services to veterans. And then proceeding, we have historically provided United Way 211 Help to Veterans program, which was actually begun in part by the county through the Workforce Development Department. And we're requesting $82,000 in funding for the Help to Veterans line, which provides services to veterans all over the county and connection to services with a specific veterans focus. And Joseph's Home wraparound services for medically fragile veterans who are experiencing both medical conditions and housing issues in Cuyahoga County. This level of funding is almost always not sufficient to meet the need that Joseph Home encounters when it's providing these services. They're only given a fraction of what it costs to support these veterans by the per diem that's provided them by VA. And so this goes to supplement the cost that they take on when they're caring for these medically fragile homeless veterans. As the council president mentioned, Riddall Green Partnership, that $33,000 would be sufficient to provide the entire 5-month veterans training program in urban agriculture for 15 veterans. Or it could be broken up in other ways for smaller training sessions for veterans as well. And then Greater Cleveland Fisher House, we provided funds for their construction, and this would be sort of that next step in providing $100,000 for the operations of the Fisher House.
Well, I think what we've been able to do here in the county is hopefully set an example for those other 87 counties, because I know that most of all of them have a community college in their district. Many of them will have an extension of Ohio State, Kent State, Akron within their county. They will certainly have an employment supporting for their veterans. They will have homeless services for their veterans. I know that all the other 87 counties are going to have a United Way program. So, by gosh, why don't they just do the same thing we do? They aren't going to have a Fisher House, I understand that, because they don't have a VA hospital. But I just, rather than have this money go into the general fund, it belongs for the veterans out there. And so this is really great. And my hat's off to you and our council staff for identifying these. I bet the list is probably endless out there, and so you had to do some balancing acts out there. Is there any other discussion in regards to these 10 candidates that we're looking at?
Just one final note on, again, on Riddle. This actually helps stabilize the staffing levels as well in this one component. So it has a small economic component in terms of job creation and retention in this $33,000.
Well, and just another comment in regards to the Fisher House. There was some question about, gee whiz, these people come from all across the country and they come here and they say they're really not Cuyahoga County residents. And my answer to them is some of these people are staying here 2 months, 6 months, 12 months while their service member is being treated at the VA hospital. And what kind of a positive message do they take out of here when they walk out of here and we've taken their child to the zoo, or they've taken their child to the museum or something of that nature, and they go back home to Poughkeepsie and they tell a positive story about Northeast Ohio. To me, that's probably as valuable as anything else out there.
And, you know, Mr. Chairman, veterans protect everyone, not just people where they live.
I agree, but unfortunately, I had an argument with some of our pre-colleagues about those dollars going to the Fisher House. Fortunately, we have convinced people, I think, that this is a bigger picture and it protects everybody. So, any other questions or comments?
Through the chair, if I could, just one more comment.
Sure.
In response to the council president, I did want to mention that Riddall Green Partnership, several of the key employees who would be working with the veterans are veterans themselves as well, and I think that that's important to note.
I wonder if there's any way we could actually send something out to our fellow county commissioners at the other 87 counties and just suggest this as a letter. Here's what we did. Here's how it got used. Here's what we chose to do 12 years ago, and $3.5 million has been working on behalf of the veterans as opposed to going in your general fund.
Mr. Chair, Trevor McAleer, we can use the CCAO, the County Commissioners Association organization, to help get that message out if that's something this council would like us to work on.
Yes, because I think we should be touting our own horn that this is a good thing, and the other 87 counties should pick up on it. So with that, is there any other questions or comments? Hearing none.
If I can, just for the record, all of these entities are required to submit a written report by midsummer of next year of how the dollars were spent. Khalil has gotten every report from prior year's funding, so we have that for the record. So they're required to submit how they spend the dollars. So
and maybe next summer, when that report comes in, let's maybe just do an update as to how people use those funds. I think it'd be kind of a very nice statement out there. Maybe next year on veterans.
Khalil won't be here with us.
I understand that. He's got bigger fish to fry. Yeah, that's right. Remember who we are when you leave Cleveland. Yeah, we're the little people. Yeah, that's right. So with that, is there? We don't have a motion yet, do we, on the floor? Okay, I will be honored to move that. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, can we get that for second reading adoption? Would that be something the committee would be willing?
The moving party I'll move to bring it out for second reading adoption. Just second?
Agreed.
Okay, for second reading adoption. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate all the hard work. This will probably be the last time you'll address a committee meeting. Thank you. Good luck, Khalil. The next item, if we could read it into the record, I think it's still economic development.
Resolution 2021-0268, authorizing home loans to various organizations or their designees in the total amount not to exceed $2,250,000 for various affordable housing projects.
Do we have somebody from the executive's office to speak on this issue?
Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. Good afternoon. The Housing and Community Development Division of the Department of Development assists in the creation and retention of affordable housing in Cuyahoga County by providing job gap financing in a maximum amount of $450,000 without interest, deferred, and forgivable based on 20 years of affordability. To that end, on July 13th, we released an application to for-profit and nonprofit developers for affordable rental housing loan program. On August 6th, we received 8 applications back. One project was deemed ineligible because it had already started, and under the HUD guidelines, until we get the environmental review complete, no action can occur, no money can be spent. We ended up then with 7 projects, several of which were in the city of Cleveland. The city of Cleveland is participating with these projects as well financially. We do not close our loans until all the funding is in place and commitments verified. So on our applications, we accept conditional commitments. Before we close the loans, we actually have to have the commitments, and then we do some more underwriting to ensure that the amount of money that has been requested is what the project continues to need. If they don't need it, we reduce our loan amount. So the projects are anticipated to close and begin construction within 12 months after approval. Some start sooner, some start later. We work with our developers so that if they hit a glitch, because oftentimes HUD is the glitch, other issues arise where they need more time beyond the 12 months. And then we have times where a project can't go forward, which is the case with the funding that is available for this group of 5. We had a project from 2019 that just is not ready. So we were able to take those dollars, add them to our current dollars, and be able to provide 5 projects of affordable housing, and they are. The Cuyahoga Tay is a collaboration between A Place for Me, Reach Youth Action Board, Sisters of Charity Foundation of Cleveland, Enterprise Community Partners, CHN Housing Partners, Eden and Frontline Services to develop new supportive housing for transition-age youth in Cuyahoga County. That's 50 new affordable units with a total project cost of $12,318,845 and a county home commitment, if approved, of $450,000. The numbers that I'm quoting you today as total project cost are those that were identified to us at the time of application. We recognize that those numbers can and do change. So before we close, we also get the final source and use so that we can ensure, again, that the federal money is needed in its entirety, and if not, it can be reduced. The second project, the Arch at St. Michael's, will renovate and convert the former Central Catholic School located at 3146 Scranton Road in Cleveland's Clark Fulton neighborhood to a senior independent living project. 46 units, total project cost $741,653. County home funds of $450,000. Jennings Center for Older Adults and Pearl Developers have partnered to develop Hazelwood Court, a 53-unit senior community in Maple Heights. 53 new units, total project cost $12,576,398. County home request $450,000. The Warner Swayze redevelopment will be a mixed-use, mixed-income, historic adaptive reuse of the former Warner and Swayze manufacturing plant. New units equals 140. Total project cost, $23,802, thank you, $23,802,473. County home request, $450,000. The last project today is Benjamin Rose is developing the Margaret Wagner Apartments 3 as 20 units of new HUD 202 supportive housing for the elderly located at 2373 Euclid Heights Boulevard in Cleveland Heights. 20 new units, total project cost $5,628,735. County home funds $350,000. City of Cleveland Heights home funds $100,000. I'm open for questions.
The chair will ask, didn't we just fund Warner Swayze project a few weeks ago?
I believe that was an ED
Right.
loan. This is specific to the affordable housing, well, they're mixed use with affordable housing, so they would be required to provide us with 4 units that would have to be maintained affordable for 20 years to get this loan.
Okay, so of the 140 units, 4 of those units would be falling into this category, is what you're suggesting?
Yes,
Okay, all right. So this is all part of the same financial stack that's going into the financing of it, but in this 450 up to, they have to guarantee 4 units of the 140.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Questions for anybody else on the committee? Yes.
Just clarity on how that came about. I think I went into the project thinking it was going to be all affordable housing. So now 140 units are actually only 4 units of affordable housing?
no, what we, excuse me, the chair to the councilman, what we require is for each $150,000 that we loan of this federal home dollars, 1 unit has to be maintained affordable for a period of between 15 to 20 years. So they could have 300 units, but to get the gap financing from us.
140 in this case, yeah.
Got you. So
1 unit.
not to mean that that there are not more affordable housing units within. This just reflects our county portion.
That's correct.
Okay. Second, I think I heard you maybe twice say that loans may have started at a $1 amount, and as the financial package came together, you could have potentially lowered the county's loan contribution to the packet. How many projects did that happen on of these 5 units? Did you lower?
The chair to the councilman, I have not lowered any of these as we move forward. They can be, and since I've been with the county doing this, I have reduced the loan amount of about 3 loans based on what the end result was, not what their application said, but as they received additional funding from other sources. And it was determined that because they had that additional funding, the federal funding in the amount that was stated, generally $450,000, wasn't needed, and I would reduce it.
So you meant that as a general practice to how you operate, but it was not applied to any of these 5 units?
Not yet.
Not yet. So it's still a potential. Tell me a little bit about the factors as to what would cause the loan contribution to come down.
Some of the applications have applied for funding, ARPA funding, other funding from the state. If they were to receive that funding in a higher amount than what they estimated in their application, then that would be something that we would look at to see if the $450,000 was still required from the county.
So in other words, what you're saying is if they've already got 100% of their money, they don't necessarily need our money on top of that. Is that what I understand you to say?
The chairman said, Mr. Councilman, yes, because we filled the gap. So if the gap reduces, our loan amount reduces.
We're not taking anything away. It just if they don't need it, it's not something we're going to put into their capital stack.
That's correct. And HUD requires us to look at that to make sure that we are not unduly enriching the developer and that we are only giving those amount of dollars that are necessary to make the project move forward.
Okay, because that's how I looked at it as a developer. I'm thinking, hey, you put together a financial packet and you get those initial dollars and then it comes down and say, how does that work? So, okay, no enriching.
No enriching.
No enriching, okay.
Sure.
So just curious, as to each one of these was given the same amount, 450,000, and I understand that it's not to exceed, but projects like the last one, the Benjamin Rose Institute, that's one of the lowest, 5 million, still gets the same 450. Is there, what formula is there that you would consider 17 million to receive 450 million or 450,000? And I understand that could be lower depending on, you don't want to enhance what they're doing if they don't need it. But what strategy is there that you would pick the same amount for each one?
We have a per unit maximum that HUD says we can't exceed. So right now, the county uses $150,000 for one affordable unit. So that's how we get to that 450,000, which for the home consortium has been the max. They do not go above that. But 4 units equals 450,000, which is 4 units of affordable housing in Cuyahoga County, new or rehabbed, for a period of about 20 years.
So each one, that's the max for each one of them?
Yes.
No matter what the total cost is? Got it, thank you.
Ms. Stevens?
Do each of
Ms.
these
Vice President?
projects have low-income housing tax credits in them? Oh, except for Benjamin Rose. I see that's a 202.
Hazelwood Court in Maple Heights does have low-income housing tax credits. Cuyahoga Tay, I do not see.
I thought Warner Swayze had low-income housing tax credits.
It might. I was
I
just
think
going.
it did. As I recall from the original legislation, that's where we put our big bucks in.
So the Arches St. Michael's does not, and Cuyahoga Tay does not. I believe Warner Swayze does have the low-income housing tax credits as well.
I just asked because their requirements overlap with the home requirements, and typically 80 to 100% of the units in a building where there are low-income housing tax credits are affordable, or they fall under what the rents can be to be affordable in a specific county, and that varies from county to county. So that also means that that each of these developers brought money from outside Cuyahoga County into these deals, which is a good thing.
And I will say that Margaret Wagner and I believe the Arches St. Michael's both have HUD mortgages as well.
Okay.
So that will increase the affordability of the project.
Any other questions? Hearing none, what's the speed to which, could this go 3 readings, or does it need to come out in 2?
It can go 3, thank you.
Okay. The chair will move to move this to the full commission, council for a second reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The matter is passed. Pass the gavel over.
Thank you.
Figuratively.
If you would read the.
Resolution 2021-0269, authorizing an amendment to contract number 1990 formerly contract number 1333, with CHN Housing Partners for emergency rental assistance to income-eligible tenants unable to pay their full monthly rent due to the economic impact from COVID-19 for the period April 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $2,494,727.40.
Sarah Parks Jackson, Department of Development. This is the last of our Emergency Rental Assistance 1 funding that we are allocating the balance to CHN Housing Partners, who has been our partner in administering the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. The contract itself expires of December 31st this year. They have a number of residents who are waiting for approval and payment, so we know that the funding is greatly needed and will be used right away. We are looking at allocating our Emergency Rental Assistance 2 funds very soon so that there won't be a substantive gap in funding from Cuyahoga County for rental assistance.
Are there questions from any of my colleagues? Could we have a couple, I'm sorry, Ms. Baker?
Just curious on the dates. You said this ends at the end of this year. So that funding that's you're asking for will be spent by the end of this year. Is that right?
They most definitely have enough residents that are in their pipeline, either approved or pending approval, as soon as we can get the funding allocated to them, that they can move forward.
2.494 million, that all will be spent in the next 4 weeks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Did we allocate over $10 million to them previously?
Over 20.
Over 20? And the full 20 has been spent?
The full 20 has been either spent or allocated, and I say that because they are continuously cutting checks.
Okay.
So I
And
believe.
how many families did that help? Is Gretchen still here?
May I introduce you to Lori Leverett from CHN Housing Partners, who handles the program directly.
If you'll come to the microphone and state your name for the record, please.
Laurie Leverett.
So how many families have you helped, and how many individual months were services provided?
So in total, we've provided over $48 million in assistance, both from funding from City of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, and that served 11,578 unique households. The split has roughly been 50-50 city, 50-50 city, county. Average months of assistance provided was 8 to 10 months.
And aggregately, how many months were provided with this $48 million? Because some folks' rent is $750 and other folks' rent is $1,150.
I'm sorry, I'm just reviewing my notes.
Okay.
So on average, the average assistance amount for Cuyahoga County residents has been $4,700. What we've seen in average rent reported is $1,094 per month.
So my 1,100 wasn't far off. Okay, so if we were to divide 1,100 into 48 million, that's how many months of rent that we paid? Is that approximately what we would do to see how many months were covered?
Would you ask the question again? I apologize.
So if we're taking care of, typically it's a month's rent that is paid for someone, and it can be up to 3 months or up to 9 months.
So we can provide up to 12 months of assistance under ERA 1 and up to 3 months prospective rent, again under ERA 1.
So if the average rent per month is $1,100, rounding so that I can do the math on my phone quickly, we're looking at 43,000 months, in essence, that were provided, and some change. Because we had 11,500, just under 11,600 families that, or unique households, as you phrased it.
And so I'd like to clarify that 11,578 is split between city county is what we've been seeing as the average split across since inception.
Okay. And we provided 20-some million, is that correct, Ms. Parks Jackson? Yes, it is. So our half of that is taking care of just under 6,000 families, if it's a 50-50 split. And we're looking at having provided a substantive number of months of safety. I see county government as a safety net for most of the people who need our support and services. We keep them from going into even scarier or riskier places. And the work that you have provided by getting these families rent and to their landlords, because it kept landlords from going broke. There was two sides to this coin. We protected citizens who were at risk, and we helped people who were small business owners move through a time that could have cost them the loss of their properties and taken them into foreclosure. So this helped folks on two faces of a coin. So we're grateful to you for the support you came to do, because we couldn't have done it ourselves. Our staff did not have the capacity to do it. Anything else you'd like to share with us about the work that was done?
No, I completely agree with all that you've stated. And if I could add anything, is that we haven't really seen it slow down. You know, folks are still coming to us in need. We've seen about 10% of folks come back for additional assistance, considering we hadn't given them the full amount that they might have been eligible for.
So for the public, there was a point in time when folks were told they could only get 3 months. Are you saying they can get up to 10 months of support now?
So under ERA 1, we can provide up to 12 months. And when folks were coming to us initially, we were seeing rents 8 to 10 months. And so they still have the benefit of an additional up to 4 months possibly, so that until they've exhausted the 12 months of assistance is what I'm trying to express.
One last question. Several of these folks also needed some guidance from legal aid. Has their support, have the funds that we provided to legal aid been exhausted? Sarah, do you know? I'm sorry, Ms. Parks Jackson. Do you know that answer?
Yes, I do. No, the funds to legal aid have not been exhausted. Legal aid right now, I believe off the top of my head, has serviced about 10 households, and they have two separate levels of service.
Only 10?
10 that had to go straight to court. So they call that full service. And then they have a partial service where they're just providing some level of legal assistance, but they don't have to assist in court. But there's been about 10, and according to legal aid, it's a long process. They are working with the tenants, they're working with the landlords, they're working with the court.
How many hours do they invest in each individual family?
I would have to get you the most recent report.
Reach out to them so that we can, because were companion pieces originally. We did at least twice $10 million increments for CHN Housing Partners and then legal aid. And so we think that our assumption is that there continues to be some legal guidance that's necessary for these families.
Yes, legal aid currently is working through a $1 million contract
Excuse
that
me,
was
Ms.
just
Parks
extended.
Jackson, can you speak into the microphone?
Legal aid has a $1 million contract, which was just recently extended by Border Control to take it through to September 30th of 2022, so that they can continue to provide whatever legal services that they need to in concert with CHN Housing Partners.
If I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
we do work closely
me, can you
with
state your
legal aid.
name for the record?
Sorry. Gretchen Bowman, CHN Housing Partners. We do work closely with legal aid. Oftentimes, when we provide assistance, we're able to do so ahead of the hearing. And then legal aid helps to broker, making sure that the case is dismissed, it's wrapped up, if appropriate, that tenant is helped out, getting that eviction kind of expunged from their record. So we have been working very closely with them, and they've been a great partner. I also, once again, want to thank the county for the amount of support that they've provided to us and for the trust that's been placed in us to get this program up and running. And I think it's something that we can, as a county, be very proud of, that, when crisis happened, we figured out a way to step into the breach collectively, and we've been successful at that. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from any of my colleagues? Mr. President?
I had two constituents in Garfield. I was in a community meeting. They said that they had reached out for rental assistance, and they were told that there was no more dollars. Did we at any point have any break in services from pandemic to today?
So one of the interesting things about the way that rental assistance has been funded by the federal government is there have been streams of funding. So we might at some points experience a period of time where we are have exhausted one source of funding. There are RFQs being issued for additional upcoming funds, and things are, kind of crossing in the wind, so to speak. However, ultimately, we have been able to help everyone who has needed it. And when there are issues with, I call those more cash flow concerns, that's an area where we really need to work with the landlords, because oftentimes they just want to know that the assistance is coming and coming from a reputable source, and then they're willing to work with everyone to come to a positive resolution.
Things can always get lost in translation, but their language to me in the narrative was, we were told that there's no more rental assistance money. So I kind of pushed back and just directed them to call back to Cleveland Housing Network.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So there is more than one assistance provider, so it could be perhaps they didn't reach out to us. There is also a possibility that they might have exhausted the assistance available to them under statute, because different federal funding streams have had different lengths of assistance period provided.
Ms. Bowman, could you provide to one of our staff, either Trevor or Khalil, who a good contact name is? So when one of the members of council has someone who says, I couldn't get access, we can give staff the name, and then they can reach out to you, and we can find out whether they've exhausted all their benefits or whether they didn't reach out to the right folks.
Yes, that's a great suggestion. We can absolutely do that. We also use a Salesforce platform to track applications, and it carries over connected to the client name from program to program. So that is something that we can get real-time access to. It doesn't take us very long to answer those questions.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So we need to pass this legislation. Ms. Parks-Jackson, immediate?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to pass this under suspension?
I make a motion that we pass this under second reading suspension.
Is there a second? Thank you. Ms. Baker, if there's no discussion? If there's no discussion?
I'll add this. I'd like to have my name added to this piece of legislation. And I'd also like to have my name added to the previous legislation with our Jennings facility. And just want to acknowledge my mayor here in Maple Heights, Mayor Annette Blackwell. It's good to see you. But again, add my name to both, please.
With, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Do we have any miscellaneous conversation we need to have, Mr. Schramm?
That was your committee, and I'll make the same statement. Is there any miscellaneous conversation in regards to economic development? Hearing none, my committee's done.
Mine is too.
Okay.
There's an adjournment on behalf of all of us. Thank you.
There we go, mutually.